book lovers, it is G-Swizz here, and I'm here today to talk about the companion series that are currently on my TBR. If you didn't know, this is a 7 on Sunday topic, and I am the host of 7 on Sunday. I will link the Goodreads page down in the description where you can check it out and you can participate in a topic in the future, or you can suggest a topic. And this week's 7 on Sunday topic I wanted to do for quite some time, but I wanted to space out the series videos that we did. I mean, there were a bunch of series related topics that we did last year, inclusive of companion series that we recommend. And I did list a bunch of topics relating to book series TBRs, but I never ended up including a companion series TBR topic. So this month we're doing one, and I'm very much looking forward to talking to you guys about the companion series that I really want to get to from authors that I've either read before or I haven't read before, that I've heard great things about these companion series. And being that G-Swizz has gotten into romance, majority of these, I believe all of them, have some sort of romantic element. That's just my new brand, apparently. And before I proceed with this video, I should probably let you guys know my definition of companion series. Some readers refer to them as anthology series, other readers refer to them as companion series. The companion series I'm going to be talking about today are not to be mistaken with like having one series and then having a spin-off from that and then that being a companion series. No, I'm more referring to anthologies where we follow one set of characters and then in the next book we follow characters who were side characters in one book but are main characters in the sequel, and then having the main characters in the first book be side characters in the second book. Pretty much the books take place in the same world, in the same universe, or the same friendship circle as some authors have previously released. A good example of this would be the Hot and Hammered series by Tessa Bailey, or the Bellinger Sisters duology. Like, that duology follows two different sisters, and each of the books contain a separate individual romance for one of the sisters, but they overlap in a way because you get to see one sister as a side character in another book and then vice versa. That is my definition of companion series, because we often talk about an individual book as a companion book to another book in the series. Hopefully you catch my drift. I guess without further ado, I'm going to talk about those kind of series today. The ones that I have on my TBR. First companion series that I would like to talk about today that I've put on my TBR only as of recently is the Well Met series. And this is a romance companion series by Jen DeLuca. I haven't read anything by Jen DeLuca before. However, I've heard about this series over the years. I've been on BookTube and I've seen it recommended a lot. I only recently purchased these paperbacks because they were finally picked up by an Australian publisher, so they were a lot more affordable to purchase. I am very much looking forward to this one because I've had this one recommended to me personally a few times. In fact, I had someone recommend this to me without mentioning the title of the series whatsoever, and I had no idea that the series they were describing was Well Met until I read the synopsis for Well Met. They were talking about this romance series that takes place at a Renaissance fair, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. If you remember the title of the series, just let me know like what the series is so I can look into it. Then when I was looking into purchasing Well Met, I looked at the synopsis of the series. I realized that they were recommending me Well Met, but they just forgot the title of the series. Thankfully, I know now. I've been recommended this a few times, both deliberately, like when someone actually has the title and the author, but also by description. I'm very much looking forward to this one, considering that a lot of readers recommend it to me personally. I don't know if this is going to be one of my new favorite romance series, but we will see. We will find out together based on everyone's recommendation. The next companion series that is still on my TBR as I'm filming this video is the Twisted series by Ana Huang. I'm actually halfway through this series, so I've already read Twisted Love and Twisted Games. I now have Twisted Hate and Twisted Lies. Just had to look at my shelf to confirm that that was the title. I am so looking forward to continuing on with the series. However, I think after Twisted Games, I am very much nervous about the length of these novels because they are just getting thicker and thicker, and Twisted Games almost lost me. I DNF'd the book for a few weeks and then picked it back up because the first half of the novel was just dragging. I mean, yes, I did appreciate the character study in Twisted Games. However, I think because everyone hyped the book up so much, I just expected the pacing to be a bit better, and I wanted a little little bit more romantic scenes, but I mean, we got some good ones. So like, they did make up for the fact that the first half of the book was slow. This all being said, the next 2 books in the series are chunky. How many pages is Twisted Hate? Oh my god, Twisted Hate is almost 500 pages. My goodness, I don't think I've ever read a contemporary romance that was 500 pages. But I mean, here we are. And then we have Twisted Lies, which is just as, maybe even more chunky. Every single time I look at Twisted Lies, I get so intimidated because the series gradually gets thicker and thicker with every book. That is why I haven't continued on with the series. But as I'm filming this right now, I'm filming this before Rare 2023. My aim was, and still kind of is, to get through majority of the series before I attend Rare 2023, because essentially Rare 2023 is the motivation. Yeah, look, I actually don't know whether that is going to happen, but what I do know is that I want to continue on with the series, because as much as it is slower and more intimidating with every book, I hear that the next few books in the series are good. I hear that Twisted Games and Twisted Hate are everyone's 2 favorites, so I'm hoping that I really love Twisted Hate. Twisted Games was difficult for me to get through, but the second half was totally worth it. Moving on to a fantasy companion series, I have the Married to Magic series by Elise Kova. I've only read A Deal with the Elf King so far, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't amazing. I think once again, the pacing was off. I feel like the first 75% of A Deal with the Elf King was essentially world building that we didn't really need. I mean, yeah, obviously this world does need to be built because it's technically setting up a companion series. However, it wasn't really necessary to A Deal with the Elf King. I reckon that we could have had that world building, but we could have also had a good romantic plot. So I haven't been motivated to continue on with the series because I did not like the pacing of A Deal with the Elf King. However, I hear that the series gets better with every book so far, and A Dance with the Fae Prince, I've heard, is incredible, so I need to get to it. And I also love Elise Kova. Rarely Elise Kova misses. I mean, the spin-off series to Air Awakens, the Vortex Chronicles, yeah, that was mid in my opinion. The actual Air Awakens Chronicles and the Alchemist of Loom, those series, in my opinion, are top tier by Elise Kova. I'm just hoping that the rest of the series will also meet that top tier status, because if it doesn't, then I really don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Elise Kova is just one of those authors I will automatically buy. I get so excited when she releases a new book. However, I haven't read anything from her recently. That needs to change. I need to read A Dance with the Fae Prince, and I need to continue on with this series. I also have A Duel with the Vampire Lord on my shelves, so I gotta get to that one as well. I am once again intimidated by another companion series, but I hope that I like the rest of the books and that the first book won't taint the rest of my experience. And another fantasy romance companion series that I am so looking forward to continuing on with is actually one that is a lot less intimidating than the one that I just mentioned, and that, my friends, is the Entangled with Fae series by Tessandra Odette. I am actually currently a few books into this series, and I have a few more left. I don't know how long the series is going to go for. I'm currently holding up the 4th book in the series, A Taste of Poison, one that I have not yet read, and then another book in the series will be coming out soon. I don't know whether Tessandra Odette wants to leave it at 5 books, but what I do know is if she writes more than 5 books, if she writes 10, if she writes 20, I will read them all, because I love the little romances that she keeps on sparking in this world. It is just so exciting, so heartwarming, and also I just appreciate these books in general, like their packaging, that is pretty. This one I'm holding up is a Snow White reimagining from what I remember, and so far from what I've read, this series has consisted of a Beauty and the Beast reimagining, a Cinderella reimagining, and a Little Mermaid reimagining, and all 3 of them were delightful. My favorite one, surprisingly enough, was the Cinderella one, and I've never had an attachment to Cinderella, but I love the characters in that book. I am so in love with Heart of the Raven Prince. I'm hoping that I will love A Taste of Poison as much as I love the other books in the series. I mean, I don't doubt that Tessandra Odette is going to impress me. She is one of my favorite authors of all time currently, so I cannot wait to continue on with this series and to read A Taste of Poison to let you guys know how I go with it. Another companion series I definitely want to continue is one that I only recently started, and that, my friends, is the Deal with a Demon series by Katie Robert. Now, I was gonna bring up Dark Olympus on this TBR, but let's be real. I've mentioned Dark Olympus many times before. I keep on putting it on different TBRs. I keep on saying that I'm gonna read Neon Gods eventually, and it just doesn't happen. I mean, I will get to it eventually, but I'm choosing to spotlight the A Deal with a Demon series because I actually recently started this series. I read The Dragon's Bride in March and absolutely loved it. It was definitely a great start to the series. I actually thought that the series was going to be a trilogy. It turns out it is a 6-book novella series. I don't know if you would classify a 200-page novel as a novella, but technically, from what I know so far, far, these books aren't going to exceed 200 pages, but if they do, it would be around that mark. This was very cute. It was steamy at times, but I'd have to say it's much more tame than the Wicked Villain series by Katie Roberts. I just want to read the rest of the series for wholesomeness, maybe to hit me in the feels. I don't know, Katie Roberts books be like that sometimes, so we will see how I go. The rest of the series might just destroy me, but what I do know is that with The Dragon's Bride, this one kind of put me back together again. So I cannot wait to continue on with the series, but I also want to reread this one as well. We will see how the rest of the romances go. So far, this romance was amazing, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that the rest of the romances in this series will be just as good, or maybe even better than The Dragon's Bride. I don't know, I think that The Dragon's Bride set the bar pretty high, so we will see. And speaking of the Wicked Villain series, the next series I bring up is actually a good comp to it. I mean, from what I know, it very much reminds me of the Wicked Villain series because it's one of those companion series that also follow fairy tale reimaginings, but set in a contemporary world. And that, my friends, is the Never After series by Emily McIntyre. I really want to read this series. I hear that it's really dark, but I didn't think that it would make a perfect comp to the Wicked Villain series until only recently, because I actually thought that this entire series was based on the Peter Pan world, except only Hooked does. I mean, this cover and this title kind of deceived me into thinking that this entire series was going to be about the premise of this book, but turns out it's not. Apparently, the next books in this series follow different fairy tale reimaginings, but essentially spotlight the villains and make the villains the heroes. I'm getting those vibes from this series so far, considering that this title is literally named Hook. So I'm looking forward to this one. I am a little bit hesitant about this one specifically because I hear that it gets pretty dark, and it's not necessarily the healthiest romance series ever, but I mean, it's a dark romance. So I guess I gotta go into this series expecting to get a dark romance. What I do know is that I love the Wicked Villain series by Katie Roberts, and if this series is anything like the Wicked Villain series, I know I'm gonna dig it. And the next companion series I have on my TBR is the Dreamland Billionaires series by Lauren Asher. Seriously, finding the Dreamland Billionaires series and hearing about its premise made me think to myself, anything can inspire a romance series these days. This series was essentially inspired by Disney theme parks, from what I know. We are following, I believe, billionaire siblings, and each of the books in this series follows a different romance between someone and a billionaire sibling in this family who owns these theme parks, which is interesting. I've never heard of such a romance premise before, but I guess the series was written for romantic escapism. I am curious about this because whenever I think of not romantic escapism, but any kind of escapism to do with like watching rich people, I think about my experience as a child watching Princess Diaries 2 and seeing Princess Mia's wardrobe. For some reason, my mind always goes to that. I'm transported to that childhood memory of, oh my goodness, this is amazing. This is too good to be true. I don't know, guys. I grew up in a low socioeconomic background, okay? Don't judge me. Just let me live through something. I lived through the Princess Diaries 2 when I was younger, or any kind of princess movie. And nowadays, I find escapism through the books I read, including books about billionaires, apparently. We will see how this one goes. I reckon that I'm going to really enjoy this. I think I'm just gonna eat it up, and I'm just gonna be reminded of 7-year-old G-Swizz watching the Princess Diaries 2. I don't know when that movie came out. I don't remember whether I was 7 or not, but what I do know is that I was a little kid who was dreaming, okay? Maybe, just maybe, the protagonists of the story will get their wish granted, and I will seriously eat up every moment of it. And the second last companion series that I have to mention that is on my TBR today, book lovers, is the Romancing the Clarkson series by Tessa Bailey. I actually attempted to start this as of recently, but I was in a really bad book hangover. In fact, funnily enough, I was in that Bonds That Tie book hangover that I recently talked about in my March wrap-up. I was in a really painful book hangover, and I was trying to pick different things up. I did pick a Emily Henry book up, and I picked up a Katie Robert novel. I ended up picking up a few things, and you know what? This one was the first one I did, and I immediately dropped it because I just knew that I needed to save the series for a good time, and that time was not the time because I wasn't going to remember anything. Everything was going to go over my head. You know what? It technically has. I mean, I read the first 1 or 2 chapters of this, and I'm fascinated, but at the time I was going through that post-book series depression. I just could not do it. I could not love these characters. I could not pay attention to them because I was thinking about my babies in another series. So I want these characters to become my new babies. I want to follow these characters and to absolutely love them. And I think after reading Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey, I think I realized that I just want to read some of her backlist, because as much as I appreciated Secretly Yours, the pacing was a little bit off. The books in this series, however, seem to be less thick. This one is 302 pages. So I reckon that the books in the Romancing the Clarkson series are going to be much better paced. Like, I appreciated Secretly Yours, but it went on for long, and the reason why it went on for long, oh my goodness, frustrated me. I'm hoping that this series does not fall under that same pattern. I seriously hope that the characters in this series have much better communication than the main character did in Secretly Yours, but there's only one way to find that out, and I will find out by reading the series, essentially. I am very much looking forward to this series as well, because we have 4 books in the series. We are following 4 different siblings, and that excites me because as much as I did enjoy the Bellinger Sisters series, I felt like that series was too short because we only had 2 characters we were following, but having 4 story options within this circle, that's really cool. And finally, the last companion series I have to talk about that is on my TBR currently. I mean, look, there are many companion series on my TBR, but this is the final one I want to highlight. Yeah, I want to highlight the fact that Ice Planet Barbarians is on my TBR. And look, I have more motivation to read the series because even though these covers have been updated and their fan art looks much prettier, the first 17 Ice Planet Barbarians books, at least on my Audible subscription, I found that the first 17 Ice Planet Barbarian books are available to listen to on Audible Plus via my Australian Audible premium subscription specifically. So I have a lot more motivation to get to these books because even though these paperbacks aren't coming out altogether, like, I'm pretty sure we are up to paperback 5 in this series, at least in Australia so far, in terms of like the new editions of these books that were picked up by Penguin Random House here. But that doesn't have to stop me because I have audiobooks 1 to 17 on my Audible account. I believe that this book has like 20 books in total. I actually don't know the total amount of standalone books we have. I know that there are like spin-off novellas that are within this universe, and I don't know whether I should count them in my reading experience, but I definitely want to get to all the standalone novels in this universe because why not? Quick interjection from the future book lovers, I have changed because literally I was filming half an hour ago and then my neighbors started booming out Dua Lipa in the hallway really loud, and I could not risk getting struck down by copyright. So I'll just be continuing, but thank goodness I only had a little bit to talk about. I'm pretty sure that the Ice Planet Barbarian series will make an excellent breakaway read from any dense fantasies that I read, or just like any dense books in general. I reckon that this series is just going to be fun. I have seen many reviews for this book, in particular this first book, so I kind of know what to expect from this first book. However, I don't know what to expect for the rest of the romances, but I'm along for the ride. Essentially, I just want a good breakaway read option because, as I mentioned, I went through a really bad book hangover and I don't want to go through it again. I mean, I'm obviously going to go through book hangovers again, but what do I do during that? I read something that is just going to get me back into the mood to read, and it's just going to be a fun time. It's not going to have too much substance. I don't know. I've literally put the Ice Planet Barbarians companion series on my TBR for a good time and nothing more. So I guess that's gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. And before I go to my doctor's appointment, if you happen to stay till the end of the video, leave me the pink heart emoji with the sparkles. And if you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. And also I have social medias. I'm at gswizzlebooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. I'm at gswizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
Started out with half and I flipped it in a double. Started out with half and I flipped it in a double.